This is January 17th, 2011. We're at the Atlanta History Center in Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Joe Bruckner, and I'm here with Tony Hilliard. We're both volunteers with the History Center, and we're honored to have Georgenne Thompson with us today. Georgenne's kindly agreed to be interviewed in conjunction with the Library of Congress Veterans History Project, and we appreciate you coming in today and look forward to hearing your story. Could you give us your full name and your current address?
My full name is Georgenne Klausman Thompson. Klausman was my maiden name. I never had a middle name. I live in Sandy Springs, Georgia, in a HUD apartment. I've lived there for over 14 years. I'm a native of Atlanta, Georgia. I was born here. I was raised here. My father was a physician. My mother was a graduate of Brunel, which made them outstanding. Then I went to Smiley Elementary, O'Keefe Junior High, as we called them then, and Girls High. I attended Georgia State for a couple of subjects, but I'm not a student, so I much preferred to learn my trade by being out in the world. I owned my own business most of my life. I worked for contractors and architects before that. I had a secretarial service and a typesetting business in downtown Atlanta. As I said, I've lived in Atlanta except for when I was married the first time. My husband, after he got out of the service, became a welder, and we went to Panama City, Florida for 2 years. Then Dad and Mother, who had a hospital, Dad had a medical condition, so we were told we would come back to Atlanta and help. We did. My husband committed suicide shortly thereafter, leaving me with 2 young daughters. I think one was almost 2 and one was almost 4. Then I waited 15 years and I married another man. Both of these men were in the service at one time or another. And I thought I had the white knight on the white Charger, but I had the black knight on the black Charger.
Oh, no.
But I gained one thing out of that marriage, so I don't regret it. I have a daughter who has 2 wonderful sons, and I adore them. My oldest daughter has 2 children. My middle daughter has 2 children. So out of my 6 grandchildren, I have 3 great-grandchildren now. I'm the young age of 85 plus.
You've got quite a family.
Yes, and I kind of stay in touch mostly with all of them. Not a lot, but some.
Good.
I live completely alone. I drive my own car. I don't cook because I've never been a cook. I have a lovely microwave though, and it knows how to feed me. I, thank goodness, being the age I am and financial, lack of financial point, I have a, what they call, they don't call them housekeepers anymore, homemakers that comes every 2 weeks to clean my apartment. Light housekeeping.
Good.
Of course I could do it, but I can't bend over, I'd fall flat on my head.
Well, you've obviously had a full life. I want to hear about some of it.
And it's been full.
When you got out of school, I guess out of high school, was that about the time of World War II?
That was during World War II. That's when I married my first husband.
Okay.
In 40 what? Somewhere back there. 47, 48.
I think it was
I don't
42.
remember which.
Did you say 42? I think in your
No,
notes.
yeah, that's right. First started
Yeah.
in 41. I married in 42. I can't even remember these things.
And did he go overseas, or did
No,
he stay
he
here?
never went overseas. He finally was sent from Lawson General Hospital out in Chambly to Texas, to Brownville, Texas. And he wouldn't let me come out there. I don't know why, but he wouldn't.
Now, did you have brothers or your father that were in the military?
My father was in the military way before my time. My oldest brother, who is now 95, was born when he was in the service. Dad came from Russia, so I'm first generation American. He and Mother came back to Atlanta, and they had the second son, who was a few years younger, and then 7 years later they had me. Boy, I was a shock to them. I don't think they expected me, but they got me. That's why I have such an odd name. It was supposed to have been George. But Mother dreamt the name up from a French novel. G-U-R-G for the man and J-E-N-N-E, dropped the J for the woman. Then Mother went to Battle Creek, Michigan when I was about 2, and she fell in love with what they did out there, so she came back and opened a hospital on Ponce de Leon, 2 blocks down from Fox Theater. And then she convinced Dad within the next year to give up his office downtown and to come out to the hospital, because we lived in the hospital. When she first started, it was just a home with the rooms set up for the Battle Creek, Michigan type of things. Massage, baths, colonics, that type. Anyhow, she talked Dad into coming out there, and then during the war, they converted a few of the bedrooms into hospital rooms where people came in for various different things. One of the cutest things, I won't say where they were from, we had a sheriff and his wife who were alcoholics. And they came in, and when I had my second child, I was sitting on the sun porch upstairs, and all of a sudden the sheriff, with a blanket wrapped around him, comes to the door, standing like Pocahontas's boyfriend, looks at me, he says, "You, Minnehaha, me big chief," and turned and walked away.
Strange.
Oh, it was very strange.
Well, did your brothers go into the service during World War II?
Both of my brothers were in the service. My oldest brother was in the infantry. My youngest brother was in the Air Corps. I think that's what they called it then, didn't?
Army Air Corps.
Yeah, Army Air Corps. And he was killed. Now he was overseas. Both of them were overseas. I don't remember when that was. But Jerome married an English girl and came back to America, and they had one son, and he wanted to go into jet planes, and to do that he needed more hours. So he and 2 buddies in the National Guard took a plane up over Virginia, over Blackstock, Virginia, and it exploded. And of course what they brought us, as far as I'm concerned, we buried an empty coffin. But he left the wife and the one son, and she stayed here and raised that boy and stayed a member of our family.
Good.
Even though she got married again, she still was a member of our family.
Well, that's good.
The oldest brother, let's see, she only had the one child. My oldest brother, he and his wife had 3 children, and they were here in Atlanta. The second man I married was from working up in North Carolina, but his home was in Ohio. So I lived up in Ohio where my 3rd baby was born, who is now 49. So, I mean, I conceived my children in one state, and I went to another state to have them.
Well, that's some
Made it interesting.
variety, yeah. Well, let's move ahead now. You had quite an experience with the USO.
I
And
had a wonderful experience.
we'd like
with
to
the
hear
USO.
about that. Why you decided to join or start your group, and how you did it, and then your experiences as you were doing this
Okay.
with the soldiers and with the other participants.
We started with my going with the Jewish Welfare Board.
Now, when was this, like a time period? Was it when you were around 50?
I was somewhere in my 20s.
Okay.
And I would say around 25, and I would go with them mainly to Fort Benning. But then if they went to the USO Lounge, I'd go there. Anywheres, they needed girls to come to act as chaperones. I went as a chaperone to the younger hostesses.
Okay. So if this was you were in your 20s, this would have been in the mid to late 40s?
Yeah,
Okay.
or early 50s possibly.
Okay.
I began to pantomime. Don't ask me why, because I can't tell you why, but I loved to pantomime. What we called dirty songs back then, they were risque. They didn't say anything, they made suggestions, and if you had a dirty mind, you called them. I did Dorothy Shea, the sophisticated hillbilly, and Ruth Wallace, who gave good songs. I enjoyed doing it. The first time I pantomimed was for the Shriners at the Grotto. And after that, I began to go to Fort Benning or Fort McPherson or wherever the Jewish War veterans went to take their girls for hostesses, and I would pantomime. I went to one occasion, and I stood up in front of the mic, and I opened my mouth like I always did with no sound coming out, and the sound system wasn't working. So all the men could see me do was stand up there and bat my gums back and forth. On the way home, I swore I would never do that again. I was going to start my own troupe. On that trip with us was a young girl that I had known her family here in town. She was younger than me. She danced, Shirley Frisch. I got a fella who was in the service, and he always went to these things, and he sang. Didn't have the most wonderful voice, but he sang. She wasn't the most wonderful dancer, but she danced, and they were dependable. So the three of us are what started it. Then I got a lovely girl in who not only could play the piano, but could sing, could dance, could do a little bit of everything. Then I got a friend of mine, because we needed an MC by then. So that was our original group, and we had a ball.
And this was a USO group?
This was my Palmer USO group. And we had the armbands to prove it. And we went to the different things, and we were introduced as the Palmer USO troupe. We went down to the USO Lounge on Lucky Street. Had wonderful times down there. We were greatly appreciated.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. The experiences you had with the troops and how they showed their appreciation and what they
Well,
said
being
over time.
a female, I liked all of the attention I got from the males. We didn't have women in the service back in those days. We only had nurses if they were females. But down there we had men, and that's what I liked, and that's what my girls liked. And so we would go down there and we would dance and just have a wonderful time. We did the same thing at Fort McPherson, Fort Benning, Fort McClellan, and the Veterans Hospital in Augusta, Georgia.
Tell us about your experiences going to the hospital with the wounded veterans.
Well, my greatest memory of the hospital was when we went to Fort McClellan. They sent a staff car and a station wagon to pick us up. And we were allowed to go into 4 wards, TB wards that had never been allowed to have anybody in there, and they had just cleared them. I divided my troop, and they went to 2 wards each, and I covered all 4 wards with my pantomime. That was wonderful to see the expression on those fellas' faces, to have live entertainment. I don't know how many years they had been in the wards without any entertainment at all.
Did you have a chance to talk to them at all?
No, we didn't have time, because by the time I got through with 4 wards, they dashed us off to something else. But I don't, and to be honest with you, I don't remember whether we worked with any of the troops there that time or not. All I remember is the hospital.
Yeah.
Now, the hospital down, I don't remember what went on in Augusta. I just know we went down there one time. I can vaguely remember.
Yeah.
But Fort Benning was the place that we usually went. And we went to Fort McPherson a number of times. And we go to, as I said, the lounge down on Lucky Street. All of the fellas appreciated it because it showed them that people were interested, were willing to come out and do something for them. Back during World War II, Mother did buddy boxes, you know, the shoe boxes with a bunch of little things in it, and I helped her with that.
Now, where would those be sent?
Overseas. They were sent by the Jewish War Veterans Auxiliary, of which Mother was part of, and of course I was the daughter of the, we had our daughters organization, which I was the president, so we worked on the buddy boxes. And I know when I came down here to few weeks ago with my daughter. They had buddy boxes out front. I don't know what they called them.
Yeah.
I don't remember what they called them out here. But she and I both did a box to send overseas.
Wow.
So you see, even at 85 years of age, I'm still doing USO.
Well, that's good. That's good. You should be.
If I were physically able, I think I would be going out doing even more.
When you would go visit the troops, not the hospital, but just the troops, whether it's on Lucky Street or Fort McClellan, did they confide in you a lot? Did they talk about their problems or their situations or their experiences in the military or anything like that?
No, most of the time it was boy meet girl.
Yeah.
And what can the boy get out of the girl? And fortunately, we knew how to say no.
Good.
But that was basically what you got. Of course, you get some that would talk about their family.
Yeah.
But it was quite interesting.
How long did you do this, approximately?
I had the troop for about 2 years, but I was active in USO many years before that. I don't know whether I did it afterwards or not. I can't remember.
Yeah. What were some of the things you did before that, before you had your troop? I know you packed the buddy boxes, but...
Well, let's see. We packed the buddy boxes. I went to USO dances. What else did I do?
This is a little bit different tact here, but you were certainly old enough to know something was going on. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, do you remember where you were and what the reaction was of the people around you?
Yes, I had taken my 2 children. No, I didn't do that. Was afterwards. Well, come to think of it, I don't remember what I was doing when I heard about Pearl Harbor.
Do you remember what the general reaction of people around you was when they... I know
Well, you're really taxing this old man now. No, I have something in my mind. Something happened, and I had my 2 babies, and we were going downtown. One was in the carriage, and the other was able to walk. And something big had happened, and now in my mind, I keep thinking that's when the war started, but it didn't, because the war started before I got married.
Talk about some of the limitations you and others had during World War II, rationing and that type of thing, how it affected you.
I was one of the fortunate ones. My mother had the hospital, so we got extra rations. We never heard for rations. Some of the patients would come in and give Mother their ration tickets. So I never knew what it was like to be rationed.
Yeah.
I had one person, let's see, it was a cousin of mine who traveled, and she was able to bring me silk stockings.
Oh.
So I didn't even have to suffer with that. I was lucky.
When the war ended, there are always pictures of celebrations in Times Square and in San Francisco. Was there anything like that in Atlanta?
I can't remember. As I said, I've tried to stretch my brain back to remember some of those years.
Yeah.
But I guess if they weren't real happy, I turned them off.
Yeah.
I remember the happy occasions. My USO things were happy occasions.
Now, you were involved in the USO just right after the Korean War a lot, weren't you? Because that would have been the 50s. Because the Korean War was around 51, 52. And,
Well, now, sometime during the war, my work involved me. I worked with the pre-induction station.
I'll talk about that.
And my little supervisor was a dwarf. And Frances, oh, she was a love. I had gone out when I knew what I was going to do. I was in a group, we deciphered the doctor's medical reports. And doctors' handwritings leave something to be desired. And we had to transcribe those and type them up. And we had so much trouble, I went out and bought a medical dictionary. And of course, if I got hold of a word I still didn't know, all I had to do was pick the phone up and call Dad and say, Dad, what is this? I learned one thing, that a lot of medical terms, if you take and change an A to an E, you've made a mistake, because an A may have been male, an E female, or vice versa, and you had to know what it was. So Frances decided I did such a wonderful job, I didn't do the typing anymore. All I did was get all the reports from the doctor and go through every one and transcribe the words that I felt that the girls wouldn't know how to type, and then give them out, and they did the typing. Frances, bless her heart, before I left the draft board, she was sent to Okinawa. She had been trying for years to go over, but because she was a dwarf, they wouldn't let her go. They finally let her go, and she sent me a little Chinese doll in a case about 10 inches high, about 3 inches wide, long, width, and about an inch or two deep, with the Chinese doll in it. I still have that doll in her glass case, and every time I move, she gets preferential treatment. She is taken out of her case and wrapped and put back in that case, and then it's wrapped and wrapped. She started my collection. I have almost 200 dolls in that collection now.
Boy.
A couple of them I've managed to go overseas and get a few dolls for myself. But at that time in my business, if I had someone, I started off with secretarial service. And when one of my customers said they were going somewhere overseas, bring me a doll back, and they did.
Wow.
So most of my dolls came from other people, but I got some from Jamaica, where I went on one of my honeymoons. I have dolls from England, France,
Wow.
Italy, Germany. Now those are places I've been to. And so my collection's grown. Of course, my oldest daughter was going during the Korean War. She was going with a boy whose parents were over there. I don't know whether it was during the war or right afterwards. And I now have a big doll, a couple of them, about that big from that part of the country.
Wow.
In my collection.
Well, you've got quite a collection.
I have one doll. She's about 2 inches tall, that a friend of mine was in South America, and she sent me this little rubber doll. She's all rubber. Her little hands had disappeared. They brought it off. She had fruit on her hat. It's all gone. But it's still a little girl, and you can see her, and she's still in my collection.
I want to give you this list that you put together, some of the acts that you performed with. I think it would be good to get that on the tape. These,
well, I can give you the names. I can't tell you what they did.
that doesn't matter. We're just interested in the names, and if anything you want to say about them is fine, but I thought it would be good to get that on the
All
tape.
right. Some of the acts were Bill Kibblehouse and Marilyn Lewis. She was about half his height, and they were adorable dancing. That I remember. Teresa Heisler, I think, was a young girl about 13 or 14 who played, I believe she played the accordion. We had a Joyce Massengill, and right offhand I can't tell you what she did. A Ted Liard, Bob Rouge, Johnny De Palma. Now, they were some of those that didn't mind dressing up in French-made costumes when we went out to Fort McPherson. Barbara Barden, Betty Albright, and Dale Dameron. I couldn't tell you about that. Now, my original group was made up of Shirley Frisch, who danced, Bob McClurd, who was a vocalist, serviceman stationed at Fort McPherson. Then we had Nancy Graves, who was a pianist and vocalist and dancer and anything you asked her to do. And then Sari Notrika Duell. We called her Sunny. She was from here in Atlanta, and she had been a very dear friend of mine, and we pulled her in as our MC because by that time we needed one. What we did, our basic group always performed, but anytime we could pull some of these other people in to do their act, we did, because it gave us a wider range. Because we could do just so much. Like I did Panamine, and then I sang with Bob, and one song that we did was This Old House.
Can you tell us about how long the show was, and just like what the program would be? You know, how it progressed?
It would vary according to who we could get into. Usually an hour, and it was variety. No one told Shirley what dance to do, and she had some beautiful costumes. No one told Bob what songs to sing. He sang the songs he liked. he and I did get together and work on this old house, and we had a lot of fun with that. Anything that was country-like, hillbilly-like, that was my part of it. Sonny always looked very attractive. She is from Spanish background, black hair and big brown eyes. Nancy, couldn't think of her name for a minute, the one that did the piano, she was the all-American girl. Bob was the all-American boy, blonde hair, blue eyes. So Shirley was Shirley. Her husband had a little band around here in town. He was well known. And I don't know whether she wanted to get away from her husband, or whether she just liked to dance, or whether she liked us. But I could depend on those people. If I said, we're going to do a show such and such, I don't care what they had planned, we did that show. We never had to cancel a show. We got together at my house, my mother's rather, where I lived, once a week for rehearsal. And you talk about fun, we had it. Of course, we always had refreshments, no alcohol. We could not rehearse with alcohol. In fact, I remember one time before I had my troupe, I was working with a Catholic bunch that did performing, and we went to the Progressive Club, which was a Jewish club, during Lent. I was the only one in the group that was not Catholic. Guess what happened? All of those who gave up drinking and smoking for Lent drank and smoked that night. So you see, we had fun.
It sounds like it.
Living around alcoholics in the hospital like I did, drinking has never been something I've been into.
Yeah.
Plus the fact, give me a couple of drinks, I'm high as a kite, so I don't want to miss out on anything,
Yeah.
so therefore I stay sober.
Smart woman.
Well, I smoked up until 71, and I quit that cold turkey, so if I could do that, anybody can.
Yeah.
How, once you had your group together, how did you get, I don't know what you call it, bookings, or did somebody?
Mainly through the Jewish welfare.
Okay.
Plus the fact, I think that we had, if I can remember correctly, we had established ourselves at McPherson, Fort Benning, and the Lounge. And for that reason, they would call and ask us sometimes, because I'm sure we went in our own car occasionally.
What caused you to stop doing it?
I don't know. I've been trying to rack my brain ever since y'all first talked to me, and I cannot remember why we stopped. Because we had a ball. We were greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
We appreciated each other. We respected each other. This group got along so beautifully. There was never any squabbling about, I don't want to do this, or I want to do that. It just worked out.
When the Bob Hope USO shows started being shown on TV, did you have sort of a special feeling of nostalgia when you would watch those?
Yeah, I guess in a way I did, because of the fact that he got right there with the troops, and that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were right there with them. This was not something that was photographed and then taken to them. We went to them and we performed. And as I said, you couldn't ask for a more appreciative audience than servicemen.
Well, that had to make you feel good.
It made me feel good, it made me feel wanted, it made me feel desired.
Good.
It made me feel that we were doing something well worthwhile.
Well, you were.
We thought so.
You brought an album with a lot of wonderful pictures, and we want to get some of these on the video. And we've got a picture from each one of the forts, but this first picture particularly I want to show. And
That's the way I looked then. I was not a brunette, I was a dark blonde. Why that picture came out and showed me with almost black hair, I don't know. But it's such a wonderful picture, I had to use it.
it's a great picture. I can see why those soldiers liked having you come.
Well, I've always been a big girl.
Now that picture at the top, the That's the name of your USO
That was on the
group?
piano that we rehearsed on.
Okay.
That was our sign that we had made
Okay.
that showed who we were.
That's gonna have to get up close.
Yeah, we pulled up closer.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
I had to bring the album because if I hadn't brought that, I wouldn't remember half this stuff.
And that says the USO JWB presents the Palmer troops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
USO and Jewish Welfare Board
Now, the next picture we've got is
in Fort Benning.
Fort Benning in June of 1954.
54.
So you want to talk about that at all? Looks like it's in
Well,
the
this
hospital
was just
ward.
one of many times that we went to Fort Benning. Any chance we got, we went to Fort Benning because we would usually be chauffeured around by an enlisted man, but we generally have an officer with us. Well, we could go to the officers' club, but we usually opted for going to the enlisted men's club. It was more fun. Officers, I think the officers got drunker than the enlisted men back in those days. And you couldn't control the enlisted men as easy as you could control an officer.
Now, there are a couple of pictures here with names. I'm just going to read these out of, I'm assuming one is Bob
McClurd,
McClurd.
that was my vocalist.
Okay. And then there's another one here, Bill
I can't see.
Kibblehouse.
Kibblehouse, he's the one that there's a picture of him dancing with her, a bigger picture.
Yeah, this is a picture. It looks like a woman in the bed with a wounded soldier.
Oh dear. I better look at this
You may want
book
to look at that
again.
one. I don't know, maybe Bill's dressed up like the woman.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's dressed up like a woman.
Okay.
But real quickly, let me show you the picture of him and his partner, what they danced. Oh, where'd you go? No. This was the original troupe.
Pull that up here.
That'd be a good
Which
picture
one?
to put on that.
Oh, here?
On the left.
Those were
Okay.
my original troupe.
The lights, okay.
Of course, we can take that cellophane off.
Can you?
Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm just taking a couple sections on each.
Shirley Frisch, Nancy Graves, Georgenne Palmer, and Bob McClurd, and Sonny
Sonny Notrika.
Notrika.
That was the original group.
Okay.
But there's one picture in here. If you can see it, you can appreciate Mr. Kibblehouse. There he is. That one.
Okay.
So he's got the striped jacket on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a humorous dance, and it was adorable.
Okay.
Good.
We didn't take a tremendous amount of pictures. As you can see, we took the little one. That was a little camera I had. I never could afford a decent camera. But
And here's the Fort Benning.
what's that Fort Benning?
This next one is Fort Benning.
This would be Fort Benning, I think.
Yeah.
The one over here is, I think,
Okay, the one on the left is Fort Benning.
and the other one's Fort McPherson, I
And
believe, the
Fort-
Kibble House.
Fort McClellan here. These are just two other pages of pictures. June 26th,
I'm glad I
27th,
labeled them.
1954 at Fort Benning Officers Club. Scenes from the Service Club and the Civilian Club at Fort Benning, same days. And then some scenes from the Non-Com Club at Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay.
Well,
Just
we did those.
set it on the table.
Good, I didn't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I said, this was over 50 years
Yeah,
ago,
I'm
and you
ama-
want me to remember all of this?
You're remembering an amazing amount.
Only because I wrote it down in here, because when he first talked to me, I thought, I've got the pictures. And when I opened this book and saw that I'd had enough sense to write names and dates down,
I
I
was-
patted me on the back.
Okay.
we pat you on the back too. That makes the interview much better when people know where the pictures are.
That was taken from the lounge, I believe, when I'm looking in the window.
Yeah, on the left it says a whale of a show, Variety Capers, the big USO show from Atlanta, and it's July 24th, 1954.
Now, they did the flyer on that, I didn't.
USO Lounge in Atlanta. And then the pictures on the right are different members of your troupe.
Turn this just a little bit this way. Okay. Okay.
Shame all my pictures couldn't be like those in the front that were big.
Now here's one we definitely want to show. On the left it has some scenes from your show at Fort McPherson in 1952, but on the right are your armbands, I'm assuming. I'm going to show those to you.
52 was before we formed the group, but I was doing that kind of work then,
Okay.
working with different groups.
And after we get this on the video, I'm going to let you look at these armbands and tell us about those. You mentioned them previously.
Well, the Jewish War veteran had armbands that they would give us to wear sometimes. I didn't wear it all the time.
Okay.
Oh, you nosy people out there. Looking in the window.
So these are the bands that you
Yeah,
wore?
these are the bands that the USO or the Jewish War veteran would give us to wear so that the people would know
Right.
who we represented. And of course, the main thing, then I got here my letters of commendation.
Well, let's put
Well,
those.
they're all one on top of the other.
Yeah, we'll just show them as an illustration. And the first one's from the on the left, American National Red Cross from Fort Benning.
Yeah, we were real proud of those letters.
And then the next one is American National Red Cross from Fort McClellan.
See, I told you we were appreciated.
You definitely were.
I possibly had more than that when I put this book together, couldn't find anything else.
Okay.
I think that's the tail end of it. Yeah, then we go into my youth. Yeah, I've got pictures of my trips abroad to different countries, albums, but this is my favorite.
Yeah, well, it should be.
This and my 2 trophies.
Well, tell us about your trophies.
Well, I've danced all my life, and even in junior high school, I'm a big girl. I've always been big. We had ballroom dance classes, and after the dance class, the teacher would play the music, and the little boys were supposed to go up to the little girls and say, "May I have a dance, please? Or will you dance with me?" And I'll never forget this adorable, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, all-American little boy, about 5'4" in height, came over to where I was sitting, and he looked me right in the eyes, and he said, "Georgine, would you like to dance?" And I looked at him, and I said, you want me to repeat that? And I said to him, I said, "No, I can't dance with you, buddy. You're too short." That has lived with me through the rest of my life. I have never refused to dance with a short man.
Well, that's good.
I know one time with my little Jewish girlfriends, we went to a Jewish dance, and little fella, Leo, had brain damage when he was born. Smart, but his physical things, and he was short. And he came up and asked me to dance, and it was an East Coast swing, which was jitterbug, that type music. And I said, "Sure, Leo." Well, he was like a little doll bouncing at the end of my arm. When that piece of music was over, we were across the room from where my friends were. The next piece of music was slow, and he said, "Would you like to dance, Georgine?" Of course, that's not quite the way he said it, but anyhow, I said yes. He rested his head on my shoulder, and we danced around the room with my girlfriends. I danced with him, though.
Well, that's
I danced with him many times after that, because he used to go to a lot of these dances. But my father insisted that I had to know how to dance.
And I bet you're glad he did.
Oh, yes. It's been the love of my life.
Well, you've had an amazing life, and you really did a lot for the soldiers.
Well,
Obviously,
I've
look at those
enjoyed it.
letters and look at the smiles on their face. Is there anything else you would like to say about your life?
No, I
and
just
yourself?
wish that I could do something like that now, but physically, I'm unable to. I can't even ballroom dance now because I can't control my balance. And I'm in physical therapy and with a chiropractor and going to a gym trying to establish that balance. I do have one student I see every Wednesday.
Good.
She's about 10 years younger than I am, and she's taking dance lessons in a group, but she never can understand what the instructor's telling her, so she comes to me and tells me what they're doing, and I work with her. Her main thing is she's so intimidated, she doesn't know how to follow. I taught beginning dancing for over 30 years. And one thing I did was I reiterated to my class, every class, this is how the man leads, this is how the lady follows, and these are certain things you have to do. You have to stand up straight, you have to keep your feet straight, you can't put them out, you can't have men, and things like that. This instructor, where she's taken, never tells them any of this. And there is a secret to it that you have to know. And it's something, like I said, I taught as a student as well as the instructor. And by doing that, I remember the things that meant something to me, and I would tell them how to do it. And that's what I've done with Grace. And it made me feel so good the last time I went and observed her class. She was able to follow the instructor even.
Well, before we close the interview, is there anything else you want to say to the next generation of people that might look at this about life and your experience?
Whenever they have an opportunity to volunteer and help, I don't care whether it's a serviceman, I don't care whether it's someone who may be sick or someone who just needs some attention, do it. It gives you a wonderful feeling of satisfaction that you have helped somebody.
Well, that's wonderful advice, and that I can't think of a better way to close the interview with that. And I can't tell you what an honor it is for me and Tony to have a chance to meet you and hear your story, and thank you for, particularly for all you did for the troops back when you were doing the USO work. That's, I know that meant a lot to them.
This has been a big honor to me, and something that I will treasure along with my album.
Good, good. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.